My name is Carmen Bryan. I am the author of the autobiography, Sex, Drugs, and Hip Hop, Owing Did I Mention Love? Maybe 10 years ago, I got a job at Def Jam as a receptionist. I went on from there to Capitol. But when I met Nas, my daughter's father, I would go to the studio with him often. He was also in the studio with my brother at the time, who was a producer, and my cousin. I could feel Nas staring at me. When I would exchange the look, he'd turn his head. It was cute. After the movie, we decided to go back to my house. On the ride home, I asked, "Do you believe in love at first sight?" We held hands, moved in closer, and kissed. Our lips were glued together practically the whole ride home. Before we knew it, the Alizé and we were getting the best of us. We were actually all over one another like wrestlers. Although I wanted him just as much as he wanted me, I had to warn him to slow down a couple of times. Finally, we stopped and ended the night wrapped in each other's arms watching a flick. From that night on, Nas and I spent every free moment together. Money was scarce. We were living on my paycheck. When I first met Nas, I was actually working 2 jobs, and I was holding down all the bills so that he could go into the studio, record. I always knew that Nas was going to be a star, and I just wanted to support him. Nas and I got together in '91, and I left in '99, but we were still off and on, so I say we were together for a total of 10 years, and we pretty much grew up together, and then grew apart. As the days passed, it felt more and more like I was living with a total stranger. All the people that Nas had in his circle, including his family, had put him on a pedestal, and he was starting to buy into it. Now he would talk to people with a condescending tone, including me. He had an opinion about everybody and everything. He began to develop mood swings and would constantly contradict himself. It turned him into a whole new person. There's not just one love story in the book. There are actually several. In life, you go through experiences and relationships, good or bad, but at the end of the day, it helps you define who you are as a person. The most common question is, how could you sleep with Nas's enemy? And the truth is, you have to ask yourself, when were Jay-Z and Nas ever enemies? Like, when were they nemesis, The truth is, the dispute between these 2 individuals is a result of my affair with Jay-Z. Plain and simple. Suddenly, out of nowhere, this dude marches right up to us and invades our little intimate circle. He stood there with his arms folded and chewed on a toothpick. We were like, "Hello, what can we do for you?" I thought to myself, who is this fool? Tata immediately stepped in. "Oh, this is my man Jay-Z." I said hello and kept it moving. Although it was clear by my facial expressions that I wasn't interested, Jay-Z was persistent and attempted to strike up a conversation. My reaction was totally off the shoulder. "I have a boyfriend," I said bluntly. "So?" he replied. I walked away from him at least 5 times, but he would not let up. I finally gave in and gave him some conversation. I thought, fine, let me give dude 2 minutes and at least listen to his pitch. We became really, really good friends. I mean, it was at least a year before we were intimate, and at that time I had no reason to use my relationship with him, as to stab Nas. I don't think you grow in a relationship with a person or befriend a person to get at another person. Even if you, one day decide, okay, well, that's the excuse. It's really not. You cannot help who you're attracted to. The mood was very relaxed. No hype, very simple and intimate. We started kissing, and it was rather intense. Somehow, we ended up in his bedroom. He started to undress me, and this time, I didn't resist. My clothes were off in a flash, and so were his. When he leaned in, I suggested immediately that he get a condom. "Don't move, and I mean it," he said, as he dashed into the walk-in closet. It had been a long wait for him. The time before didn't count. When he returned, the lovemaking began. We kissed, and I moaned as he penetrated me. He was huge. I could feel all of him fill up inside me. The encounter was passionate and sweet. Then he gave me another one of those mind-blowing massages. "Damn, why did you have to make me wait so long?" he asked. I just smiled. I had to make sure that his intentions were in the right place. We both drifted off to sleep in each other's arms. Who's better in bed? That was the #1 question. "Good morning," he said, standing over me, smiling and holding a glass of orange juice. I giggled. I was laughing because he was naked. I loved the fact that he was so free. It seemed like we had grown even closer after we made love. In a nutshell, SC was like my homie lover and friend. The more time we spent together, the fonder I grew of him. Before I left, I took a double glance at my neck in the mirror. I definitely felt guilty, and I would get over that guilt by saying to myself, or trying to convince myself, well, he has another life too, he has secrets too, you know. But I think the initial guilt came from me just living a life that you know, was in secrecy. I felt like I was in a movie in the middle of a love scene. Again, it could have been the alcohol. Puff took me by the hand and gently kissed my lips. His tongue made its way into my mouth, and the next thing I knew, we were kissing. I had gotten lost in the moment, but I quickly snapped out of it, feeling quite embarrassed. What the hell am I doing, I thought. Then I ran. We had a daughter together, so I don't think someone like Puffy or Alan would be too quick to spread, you know, my infidelities with them. It just wouldn't be a good situation for anyone. Not saying that they didn't mention their relationship with me to their peers or those that are close to them. As soon as we entered the room, we were all over each other. We began kissing, then we fell onto the bed. The next thing I knew, my top was off, my shorts, then everything. He felt wonderful inside me. The first session was rather brief, but enjoyable. After the second and third round, I was out like a light. Alan had incredible stamina. Before leaving, he gave me a kiss and said he would call me once he got to Virginia. He hesitated before turning the doorknob, looked back and said, "Can I get some more?" I was flattered. "You sure can. Get over here," I responded. In the middle of round 4, Alan asked, "Nas ever tell you got some good stuff?" "Not in words," I replied. I specifically told Nas everything because I was not about to sit back and watch Jay-Z, Memphis Bleak, or anyone else belittle him as a man. Jay-Z and I were such good friends, and we had spoken on so many occasions before this. Deep down, I knew that SC wanted me to leave Nas and be with him, but he would never admit it for fear of rejection. He lacked a great deal of confidence. I wasn't afraid to leave Nas, but I was afraid to leave him for SC. The truth of the matter was that I was more concerned with how Nas would take such a blow. He would be devastated. I wasn't afraid of what Nas would do to me, but what he would do to himself, or SC for that matter. We were supposed to use this opportunity to actually be who we claimed to be, or to be who we proclaimed to be. And he didn't. He really disappointed me when he fell short of the things that he said and the person that I thought he was by his actions. Yes, I was pregnant by him, but, you know, unfortunately, I had a miscarriage. Or who knows, I may have even had an abortion. I know that what happens in the dark eventually comes to light, but I had no idea that it would have been, you know, an explosion in hip-hop. But on a more positive note, I can say that I'm a part of that legacy. I have no regrets. I would do it all over again in a heartbeat. I am the person that I am today because of my relationship with Nas, because of my relationship with Jay-Z, being a mother. You know, Nas has given me a beautiful daughter. I wouldn't trade her for the world. Had I have not met him or been in a relationship with him, I wouldn't have Destiny. So I have absolutely no regrets. Although Nas and I are not together and we did have, you know, a tumultuous relationship, I still have a lot of love for Nas. You know, he's Destiny's father, and he'll always be her father.